I'm going to introduce you to our African drummers today. We have Baba Rich and Baba Ira and Baba Terrell and Mama Jeanette. And they're going to treat us to African drumming and music that perhaps Martin Deporez's mother would have known and grown up with and understood from her country when she came into Peru, because she was an African-born slave in Peru. So this is representative of where she came and what she would have heard. And then after we have our African drummers, we're going to move across the street and upstairs to go to Mass. Amen? Amen. All right, here we go.
Good afternoon, everybody. Okay, so my name is Baba Rich Robinson. I have a cool group of friends that have joined me today. My band is called Electric Grioland, and I have family that's in here. So hi, everybody that knows me from being in first grade. All right, seriously, let's just go there. All right, so I'm a music teacher in the Philadelphia School District. So at my school, one of the things that we talk about is the Philly roots of what your story is about. Her story, his story, what is our history. But first, before we start that, let's get into a meditative state. So Mama Janae is gonna play some bowls that'll bring us into that state. Because in the beginning, God made the Word. And the Word was not the Big Bang Theory. The Word was very, 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 very musical. He wouldn't have, or she, or they, or it, would not have made anything that was a bomb. It was something that had harmony and things that were brought together. So we're going to go from the meditative state, bring everybody together, just listen and heal. So, as we're thinking about our roots in the story of St. Martin de Porres, the one thing that, and again, we talk about how it relates or how the story relates. So, going to Catholic school with my favorite safety right there. We would talk about St. Martin de Porres, but we really didn't talk about it until I got deeper into it. And I noticed that, well, in my research, that only about 100,000 Africans were brought to Peru. And Henry Louis Gates did the same thing in the research of African Americans here in the United States. Only 350,000 Africans were brought from the West Coast or the central West Coast of Africa into the United States. So we have the same story. Now, the ports that St. Martin de Porres came from, these instruments come from. This is the djembe, this is the kora, and on Gorée, the Spanish colonies were on Gorée Island in Senegal, or the Senegambia region, and as well as Guinea-Bissau. And there was a steep heritage and history that before his mother came here, she wasn't just picked out of like a place. She was picked from a culture, a deep culture. And these instruments come from that. Thousands of years, way before the United States of America was created, way before the transatlantic slave trade, these instruments existed. So everybody repeat after me, say djembe. Djembe. Everybody say kora. Kora. The djembe comes from a word that means peace, because anything that's circular, just like the bowls there, couldn't do any harm. Circles are infinite, just like the circular table here, right? In the same way with the kora, even though it's the circles pointing at me, this thing represents the mother. So we're going to talk about St. Martin de Porres' mother and her heritage, because he just didn't show up, right? So this is a 21-string lute harp from Africa. It has basically a bridge on it. In the front, there's a bridge with 21 strings. I play it with 4 fingers, my index and thumb. The body right here represents the mama's belly. These are the babies. All right. So these represent the babies, or the places that people are near and dear in our heart. There's 21. The djembe represents the heart. So let's just hear a little bit of the djembe with Baba, Ira, and Terrell, because we went from this beautiful sound to this another amazing sound, and we're going to bring it all together. Go. The first song we're gonna do is called Jolly Eye. Everybody say Jolly Eye. And Jolly Eye means storyteller. And the jellies tell the stories of all the people in the village. So we telling the story about St. Martin de Porres. So that's Jalia. So St. Martin de Porres. Mother may have heard this in her village, depending on what part of Africa that she came from. But then there's a part that we need to talk about, and it's called resistance. And right now, resistance is a phrase that we all need to keep. We're in a state of resisting everybody, spiritually, mentally. We're just resisting. And this is a song called Bani. Everybody say Bani. Bani. Bani is a song about resistance in terms of, if I do not resist you now, I'll never do it again. I will always be your slave, I'm your captive. But if I resist you now and I keep revolting, now you gotta respect me. All right? And we're going through that in a lot of changing times right now. And a lot of people are resisting, frontline. And think about St. Martin de Porres' mother, or think about when he was in Peru. There had to have been some point where there was resistance that happened. He was down for the program. You know what I mean? And it might not have been physically, it might have been a mental state. It might have been a physical state too. But there was a resistance factor. And Bani is an old song. It comes from the repertoire of the Kora, and it basically can go two ways. It can go from the warrior state, or for a woman that's betrothed who wants to not marry for money, but marry for love, and say, hey, look, I want love versus this money part. I need that in my heart. So that's that folklore to that song. So everybody say Bani. And Mama Janae, you could grab that microphone right there. Bankama Banile. Sankuma Bankama Banile. Ah Banile. Tubabu. Sankuma Bankama Banile. Sankuma Bankama Banile. bokoma banile. Sokoma ye bokoma banile. Sokoma ye bokoma banile. Sokoma ye bokoma banile. Sokoma ye bokoma banile. Ah, banile. Sokoma ye bokoma banile. Ah, banile. Ah, banile. Ah, banile. Ah, banile. All right. So that was Bonnie. And the beautiful thing about humanity is that when it spreads out, it has a lot of influence on people, things, and culture. In West Africa, mainly in Senegal, in St. Louis, there was a monk, a Catholic monk. They have a huge basilica in St. Louis, in Senegal. It's huge. And traditionally, this instrument has little bands that go around, and they call it console. Everybody say console. Console is made with the goat skin or the cow skin, and you basically, the older jelly community would push these leather rings up, and the rings would to Nakura. A Franciscan monk, I think he's Franciscan, but I'm not exactly sure. Don't quote me on it. Don't get upset, sorry. All right? He goes into Senegal on his mission. They create the basilica, and instead of bringing the culture where he comes from and putting it on the people, he let the people bring the culture to him. And what happened is the jelly community comes in, plays an instrument called the balafon, which would predate the xylophone by a few thousand years. This predates the harp a few thousand years. And what he did was that in the basilica, it was getting like very, very, very humid, or it'll get dry, and the instrument will go out of tune. So somehow he figured out, like, let's just put like these tuning knobs up. And as he fabricated the kora, he started to consult with the jellies. And the jellies would say, this is wrong, this is right, but hey, you're on to something. And this person just died quite recently, like maybe about 2 years ago. He was 95 years old. And Gregorian, that's what it is. He's a Gregorian monk. And he adapted some of the songs that come from the Catholic faith into the basilica. So the monks learned how to play djembe, they learned how to play kora, they added like bani, and then they added other other songs that come from the Catholic faith in Senegal. It's a huge, well, I can go on a tangent, but it's on Spotify. Very beautiful music. And some of the gentlemen have converted from being a Muslim-based community and other, and animists, they became Catholic folks too. So there's a huge Catholic community in Senegal as well. And the basilica is called St. Louis. So just look that up. And this is called the kora. That's the djembe. My name is Baba Rich. This is Mama Janae, Baba Terrell, Baba Ira. We are Electric Realand. Look for us in different places around. We are a part of a bigger overall group called Maladelphia, which is based off of this guy's dreams and aspirations of bringing Malayan culture or Manding or jelly culture to Philadelphia. Our home church, we both went to St. Raymond's with Merlin over there. All right, so my parents are still parishioners there. All right, yeah. So you look for Miss Robinson, you'll say, I saw your son. She'll be like, I know. So thank you guys for having us. I appreciate your time and effort. I'm gonna take everybody out with just a small meditative space. Let's go right here, back to the bowls. Bring everybody back in.